Can you take your smartphone with you underwater to use it to film or take photos while scuba diving? Well, you most definitely can, and today we'll be looking at a housing that gives you that exact option. Coming up. Hi and welcome back to the Underwater Filmmaking School. My name is Matthias. Thank you very much for tuning in again. If you're new here, on this channel here we talk about underwater filmmaking. We give you tips and tricks on how to improve your footage while being underwater, and we also do reviews, gear reviews for you guys, and today is one of those review videos. Today we'll be talking about the WEEfine smartphone housing that enables you to take pretty much any smartphone, any current model smartphone with you underwater and use the capabilities of that phone, of the camera that is inside your phone, to film and take photos underwater. So let's talk first about why you would want to take your smartphone underwater and use it to film and photograph while being underwater. Well, there's a few very simple reasons for that. First of all, a smartphone is something that most people have with them at all times. So you normally take your smartphone with you when you go on a vacation, and if this is a diving vacation, you don't need to take an extra camera with you on that trip. Also, if you're somewhere and you didn't plan on diving, but then suddenly an opportunity comes up and you can actually go for a dive or two, you've got your camera with you that you can take down and take for photos and videos with you. Another good reason why filming with your phone underwater can be an advantage is because after you've come out of the water and you've finished your dives, you've got all your footage, all your photos right on your phone already, and you can start sharing them to all the favorite social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and so on. And even though some of the more modern, more current models of smartphones are waterproof themselves, and you can take them down to maybe 1 or 2 meters under the surface, it's probably not going to be enough for you to take them down on a proper scuba dive and film and photograph with them underwater. And that's why companies have started to make housings for smartphones, like for example the company WEEfine that makes the WEEfine Smart Housing. Now, this housing allows you to take pretty much any model of smartphone under the water surface and use it as a film and photo camera while being underwater. The WEEfine Smart Housing is waterproof down to 80 meters, probably much deeper than any of us will dive on a regular basis. It actually comes with a vacuum pump, so you can create a vacuum inside your the housing to prevent leakage happening while you're down there. This is quite special, I think, for a housing for a smartphone. This is a system that is normally only found in more expensive housings for more expensive cameras. While you're underwater, you're actually using your phone through a Bluetooth app, or through an app that is connected by Bluetooth to the housing. And even though there is only a couple of buttons here on the housing, you can access a lot of functions through that app, and you can actually use a lot of manual functions in your camera on your phone as well. And last but not least, the WEEfine Smart Housing, or the app that is used to actually control the camera while being underwater, also features a dive computer and a compass. This is true for the model that actually comes with a depth meter inside. This is this little part right here. There's also a version with no depth meter, and obviously there you don't have a dive computer inside there. Now let's look at the pros of this housing when taking it down with a smartphone to take photos or videos. First of all, it is very easy to use. As we said before, there's only a handful of buttons on the backside of the housing. The housing itself gets used via an app that gets connected through Bluetooth to your phone, and it works actually quite well. I was surprised how well the app worked, even being underwater. I don't really know why, but I had the feeling that the Bluetooth connection might be a bit iffy underwater, but it worked perfectly. We didn't really have any issues with that whatsoever. Obviously, the housing is small and compact, so it's perfect to take with you if you don't intend on shooting or taking photos the entire dive. It fits perfectly inside your BCD pocket, and then you can just pull it out and start filming or taking photos whenever you see something interesting. What I really like about the smartphone housing is that it is a modular system, meaning that you can upgrade the housing and basically fit it to your needs. So there is an adapter that you can put in front of it, so you can actually use wet lenses on the smartphone housing, like a wide angle lens. There's macro lenses as well that you can use, so you can adjust the capabilities of the housing, or the phone in that case, to whatever you want to capture underwater. And also not to be forgotten is that a housing like this is basically future-proof, because it's not meant to be used with a specific smartphone model. You can use it in the future when new smartphone models come out. They will obviously upgrade the app, make it work with newer modules of smartphones then as well, and you can keep the same housing. And this is a big thing with most other cameras, not smartphones, but normal cameras that you use for shooting underwater. Most of these housings are made for one specific model. So if you change your camera for shooting underwater, you'll have to get a new housing at the same time as well. This is not the case with the WEEfine Smart Housing. And last but not least, let's talk quickly about the image quality and how well it grades. Now, I don't know how much this really has to do with the housing itself, because the image is still being captured by the camera inside your smartphone, so it will depend a little bit on what kind of smartphone you're using. We were using an iPhone 11 Pro, and I can tell you, and you can see it right here as well, that the image grades really nicely, and you can bring out a lot of the natural colors in post-production quite easily. Now, what I found a little challenging, I have to say, using the WEEfine Smart Housing is using all the manual controls, or setting manual controls while being underwater. You can do all that, but it's kind of tedious and cumbersome to go through the menus and set the different values if you want to do your custom white balance, your custom aperture and all that sort of stuff. So we kept the settings throughout the entire dive mainly on auto, and then just did some adjustments in post-production, and that worked quite well for us. Now let's come to the drawbacks of the WEEfine Smart Housing, and there's actually not a lot of drawbacks in my opinion. One of them is that you do need extra batteries to actually get the Bluetooth connection running inside the housing, and the batteries, they go quite fast. So you will go through quite a few batteries on a dive trip just to be able to keep that connection. And as soon as the batteries run out, the connection breaks between your smartphone and the housing, and you won't be able to take any more photos or take any more film clips on that particular dive. The good thing though is that it runs on AAA standard batteries, so they're very cheap and widely available, and you can even get it in very remote locations if you do run out of batteries or forget to bring some with you. Another thing that I found was that it is quite difficult to achieve stable shots with the WEEfine Smart Housing, and this is due to the size and, well, the weight of the housing when underwater, because it is fairly light and fairly small. And as you know, if you've done any underwater filming in particular, the smaller the system, the harder it is to get stable looking footage underwater. And the WEEfine Smart Housing doesn't differ in any way here. It's not dramatic, but it definitely is visible that the footage is a little shaky, and again, depending on whatever phone you're using inside and how well the stabilization of the phone itself works, your footage might look a little better or a little worse. Something that you do need to think about as a drawback, I think, when you put your phone inside one of these housings is, especially being on a dive trip far away somewhere in a remote location, if for whatever reason you do drown that housing and you do drown your phone, it's not just a drowned camera, it's a drowned smartphone with all your contacts and everything on that phone. So if you haven't backed up your phone, or if you're in a location where you cannot replace your phone, well, for some people that might not be a big deal, but I certainly know quite a few people that would find that very catastrophic to have to live without a cell phone or a smartphone for several days or even weeks before being able to come home and replace it. And the last thing that I want to mention here in the negative section is that with the current software that is being used in the app, you can only use the main lens on your smartphone. Now, most modern smartphones nowadays have more than one lens, more camera lens, and they use the camera lenses in combination to get the nicest possible footage, photo and video wise. And this is not possible through the WEEfine Smart Housing because the app at this stage, the stage of recording this video, is not able to use all the cameras that are available in the phone underwater. You will have to rely on the main camera that you can use while being underwater. One other thing that you should think about before putting your smartphone inside the WEEfine Smart Housing is that while you're diving, while you're underwater, you can actually not turn your phone off. It has to stay connected with the Bluetooth connection, and the camera app has to stay open, so it will drain quite a lot of your battery throughout the dive. So let's say you're down there for an hour, you come up, you will most likely have to charge your phone in between two dives that you do during the same day. It's not something dramatic, I think, but it's definitely something that you need to keep in mind. So if you're on a liveaboard and you're doing 5 dives a day, this is going to be a little problematic. So let's get to a conclusion of what we think of the WEEfine Smart Housing. Personally, I think it's a great little gadget. I probably wouldn't rely entirely on the housing and my smartphone to capture my adventures underwater, simply because I don't think that the quality is up to scratch. I don't think that I'm getting the quality out of the footage that I really want. But I have to say that it is very convenient if you're someone who dives a couple of times a year, you're out on a vacation, you don't want to carry along a big amount of gear with you. This fits into every travel bag. You can take this with you wherever you go, and you're able to capture your underwater adventures very easily and very simply. You've got all your footage right there on your phone and shareable instantly after you get out of the water. Also, the price I find is very attractive at around $450 US. This is actually cheaper than most other housings that you get for normal underwater or for normal cameras that you take underwater. Plus, you don't need to get a camera in addition to that expense because, as we said earlier on, most of us, if not all, have a smartphone already that takes some really good footage. So what do you think about the WEEfine Smart Housing? Have you tried it? Is it something that is on your bucket list to try out? Please let us know down in the comment section below. I would love to hear your thoughts about whether or not you think it is a good idea to take your smartphone scuba diving with you and capture your memories underwater on your smartphone. And that's it for today's video. Thank you very much for being with us today and watching through to the end. If you did enjoy this video, hit that like button, you know it means a lot to me, and also consider subscribing to the channel so you're not missing out on any future videos that will be uploaded here on a very regular basis. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you down there.